Okie dokie. Looks like I forgot everything. How long has that book title been there? It's been Grass for His Pillow for, well, the entire time I've been reading Brilliance of the Moon, which has been a few streams. I don't know. Anyway, hello friends. Hello VOD watchers. It is me, Salty. It is Tuesday. And yes, I've made a few minor tweaks. First tweak, you may notice the bottom left corner. I've put my pronouns in the corner there because people keep insisting on using the wrong ones, so I put my pronouns there. Also, I got colours on here. I'm definitely not copying Finster at all. So yeah. And also, I got a bit of egg on my face because yesterday in Ari's stream I said there was going to be a Captain Planet movie. There is not going to be a Captain Planet movie. It was fan fiction. It was someone had made a website to look like it was a Captain Planet movie that was going to be released in 2024. Don't get me wrong, some people want to make one, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. That was my reaction when I found out. I was just like, there's nowhere on the website does it say it was fiction. So that was annoying. I thought, although I should have tweaked when I looked at the cast that was lined up, and I was just like, this cast doesn't make any sense. It's full of A-listers. What the fuck? Anyway. Hello, you one. How you doing? Pronouns are hard, but it's harder for me, really. Pronouns for everyone else are easy. You just use the ones that people tell you. But yes, welcome in. Tonight we're going to be continuing reading Brilliance of the Moon. We're about halfway through. Wait a minute. Oh, bashed myself with my book. Halfway through. Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned this on stream, but I got that stamp that I was going to get for that friend of mine, so he didn't have to keep signing like justice of the peace, like writing out the whole thing when he cited documents. So I just bought him the stamp, so he just has to stamp it and then sign his name. Yes. Oh yes, that's right. Ooh, what far is it? I don't have to worry about your pronouns in your native. Everyone is gentlest until further notice. Wow. That's pretty cool. That's rare, I think, in languages, because I think a lot of languages is very gentle. Like, you know, I thought English was bad, but a lot of languages are very gendered. Like, I think maybe French and Spanish. Yeah, the romantic languages I think are quite gendered. I don't know. I'm not a linguist. I just read. German, okay. I do like in German how they just I don't know, it's amusing how they just kind of like, to make a new word, they just put a bunch of old words together until they got this thing. Like, what gender does a bridge have? Yeah, that's ridiculous. They're taking gender as a construct to a whole new level there. So yes, it's not like you can ask it exactly. If you just, I don't know, somebody just draws a big dick and balls on the side of it. Even then. What was I? What else was there? Oh yes, right. I did add a new emote. This one, but it's an old drawing that it was part of another emote that I was making for somebody, which never got finished, and I thought I'd try it out. Shiny. Yeah, it is. I'm not sure about it. I think it's missing something. I might even animate it because I think we've already got we've got the Blahaj art. Blue high. Anyway, we've got the shark heart emote, and so blue high. Yeah. See, what language is that you on? Blue high. Swedish. See, Swedish people say blue high. Trans people say Blahaj. It's like you got Blahaj, and then you got correct pronunciation, and you got like trans people. It's like, yeah, you're in the know, and then you're in the know. Yes, so that Nordic people say it the correct way. Yeah. You like the IKEA leading into it? Yeah, it's good. I like that. That's good. What else? Oh yes. Yeah. So I was thinking about animating that red heart emote and making it like, I don't know, jiggle or something, or maybe shiny. I don't know. I'll have to play around with it. But anyway, not here for my waffle. We're here for book. Falcor the Book Dragon already has the best book emoji or emote, and that's the one that just says "I like book." And I'm just like, damn, it's so good. You could go for waffles. Oh, go for waffles. You had burgers. That's wonderful. I had the rest of the pork ribs I did yesterday because Dad is ill. So Dad was just like, no, you might as well not waste them. I'm just like, it tastes good, but that is a lot of pork. I'm going to go on a diet. Not a weight loss diet, just a healthy diet, you know what I mean? Veggies and things. Thank you for the follow, friendo. Follows are anonymous in the stream. If you want to follow, you can follow at any time. And because I got in my tags, I think, still lurker friendly. Oh, the other thing is I adjusted the camera, so the camera should be crisper now, hopefully. Tomorrow is pasta day again, and then probably pea soup. I love pea soup. I might make some pea soup sometime. We're going to have to do the cat dance first. This is supposed to be ASMR. Hello, Pengu. How are you doing?
Trust me, gay is in, gay is hot. I want some gay it's gonna be.
My goodness. Yes, we discovered the channel point redeems. I'm conflicted because I made most of those when I was doing gaming. Now I've kind of like slowly transitioned to ASMR. You do be spinning facts? Yeah. That was the episode where I think his friend was running for like election of mayor or something, and they wanted to do like a pride parade or something through Staten Island. Gosh, I love that show. But yes, so yeah, the they them in the corner is brand new. That's a brand new thing. Because I realized the other day that people don't know what the non-binary flag is. Like they just probably think, some sort of pride flag, but don't really, understand that. I'm just like, well, might be nice to make that a bit clearer. I shouldn't expect people to just know what colour flags are what. Alright, so Brilliance of the Moon, Chapter 6, unless someone wants to redeem channel points. Alright. It is helpful because the flags can be tricky to keep track of if you're not in those kinds of communities. Good, I'm glad. I do have BTTV emotes enabled too. Berlin Dude made a very cool BTTV progress emote there. It's very cool. I like that one. Alright. Chapter 6. In this chapter we leave Takeo, because last chapter, Chapter 5, Takeo went and sought the help of the pirates who had been disenfranchised by the current Autori lords, and he managed to impress the pirate king, or pirate lord, whose son he was a friend of from back in the day. Lurk for naps. Been awake from 6 a.m. Oh, Forrest. Okay, have a good nap. Have a good lurk. Have a good nap. I'll turn down the overlay. Okay, yes, so he managed to get their support. But to do that, he had to go there personally. So he had to leave his wife, Kay, there, back in the, her new inheritance, I guess, of Mariyama. That's it. So many Japanese words. Sorry, not Japanese words, Japanese-like. So yes, she was left at home. She wanted to come, but I think Takeo not bringing her along was the right call because it was a rough journey. And look, she probably could have done it, but she's been fairly pampered. If someone had wanted to take me on that journey, I would have had a hard time. So anyway, yeah, I've no doubt she could do it. Just, needs a bit of warming up to it. You can't just jump into that sort of trip. Anyway, we return to Keide's point of view and what she got up to while Takeo was away. So we're kind of rewinding time a bit. Chapter 6. When Takeo left for the coast, and the Miyoshi brothers for Inuyama, Keide saw the excitement and anticipation on their faces, and was filled with resentment at being left behind. She would. In the days that followed, she was plagued by fears and anxieties. She missed her husband's physical presence more than she would have thought possible. She was jealous of Makoto being allowed to accompany him when she was not. She feared for Takeo's safety and was angry with him at the same time. His quest for revenge is more important to him than I am, she thought often. Did he marry me just to further his plans of revenge? Further his plans of revenge. She believed he loved her deeply, but he was a man, a warrior, and if he had to choose, she knew he would choose revenge. I would be the same if I were a man, she told herself. I cannot even give him a child. What use am I as a woman? I should have been born a man. May I be allowed to return as one? She told no one of these thoughts. Indeed, there was no one in whom she could confide. Sugita and the other elders were polite, even affectionate, to her, but seemed to avoid her company. she kept herself busy all day, overseeing the household. Overseeing the household, riding out with Amano, and making copies of the records that Takeo had entrusted to her. After the attempted theft, she'd thought it would be a wise precaution, and she hoped it would help her understand the ferocity of Takeo's campaign against the tribe, and the anguish it had caused him. She herself had been disturbed by the slaughter, and also by the piles of the dead after the battle at Asagawa. That was the battle that they waged to take Maruyama, where she is now. It took so long to raise a man, and life was extinguished so easily. She feared retribution, both from the living and from the dead. Yet, what else could Takeo do when so many were conspiring to kill him? She too had killed, had men killed on her orders. Had losing her child been punishment for her own actions? Her desires were changing. Now she was moved to protect and to nurture, to create life, not to destroy it. Was it possible to hold on to her domain and rule it without violence? She had many hours of solitude to think about these things. Takeo had said he would be back within a week. The time passed. He did not return, and her anxiety grew. There were plans and decisions that needed to be made about the domain's future, but the elders continued to be evasive, and every suggestion she made to Sugita was greeted by a deep bow and the advice to wait until her husband returned. Twice she tried to summon the elders for a council meeting, but one by one they pleaded indisposition. "It's remarkable that everyone is sick on the same day," she said tartly to Sugita. "I had no idea that Maruyama was so unhealthy for old people." "Be patient, Lady Kade," he said. Nothing needs to be decided before Lord Takeo's return, and that will be any day now. He may have urgent commands for the men. They must be kept in readiness for him. All we can do is wait for him." Her irritation was compounded by the realization that, even though it was her domain, everyone still deferred to Takeo. He was her husband, and she must defer to him too. Yet, Maruyama and Shirakawa were hers, and she should be able to act in them as she wished. Part of her was shocked that Takeo had gone to make an alliance with pirates. It was like his association with outcasts and farmers. There was something unnatural about it. She thought it must all come from being born into the hidden. This knowledge that he had shared with her both attracted and repelled her. All the rules of her class told her that her blood was purer than his, and that by birth she was of higher rank. She was ashamed of this feeling, and tried to suppress it, but it niggled at her, and the longer he was away, the more insistent it became. "Where is your nephew?" she said to Sugita, wanting distraction. "Send him to me. Let me look at someone under the age of 30. Hiroshi was hardly better company, equally resentful at being left behind. He had hoped to go to Inuyama with Kahei and Gemba. "They don't even know the road," he grumbled. "I would have shown them everything. I have to stay here and study with my uncle. Even Jiro was allowed to go with Lord Otori." "Jiro is much older than you," Kade said. only 5 years. And he's the one who should be studying. I already know far more letters than he does. That's because you started earlier. You should never despise people because they haven't had your opportunities. Wise words. She studied him. He was a little small for his age, but strong and well put together. He would be a handsome man. You are about the same age as my sister, she said. Does your sister look like you? People say so. I think she is more beautiful. That couldn't be possible, he said quickly, making her laugh. His face coloured slightly. Everyone says Lady Autori is the most beautiful woman in the 3 countries. What have they seen? She retorted. In the capital, in the Emperor's court, there are women so lovely men's eyes shrivel up when they look at them. They are kept behind screens, lest the whole court go blind. What do their husbands do? He said doubtfully. They have to wear blindfolds, she teased, and threw a cloth that lay next to her over his head. She held him playfully for a few moments, then he twisted away from her. She saw he was ruffled. She had treated him like a child, and he wanted to be a man. Girls are lucky, they don't have to study, he said. But my sister loves to study, and so do I. Girls should learn to read and write just the same as boys. Then they can help their husbands, as I am helping mine. Most people have scribes to do that sort of thing, especially if they can't write themselves. My husband can write, she said swiftly. But, like Jiro, he started learning later than you. Hiroshi looked horrified. I didn't mean to say anything against him. Lord Otori saved my life and revenged my father's death. I owe him everything. I owe everything to him, but... ... But what? She prompted, uncomfortably aware of some shadow of disloyalty. I'm only telling you what people say, Hiroshi said. They say he is strange. He mixes with outcasts. He lets farmers fight. He has started a campaign against certain merchants that no one understands. They say he cannot have been brought up as a warrior, and they wonder what his upbringing was. Who says it? The townspeople? No, people like my family. Maruyama warriors. Yes, and some say he's a sorcerer. She could hardly be surprised. These were exactly the things that worried her about Takeo. Yet, she was outraged that her warriors should be so disloyal to him. Maybe his upbringing was a little unusual, she said. But he is heir to the Autori clan by blood and by adoption, as well as being my husband. No one has the right to say anything against him. She would find out who it was and have them silenced. You must be my spy, she said to Hiroshi. Report to me anyone who gives the slightest sign of disloyalty. Okay, child spies, let's go. Wonka S. After that, Hiroshi came to her every day, showed her what he had learned in his studies, and told her what he had heard among the warrior class. It was nothing definite, just whispers, sometimes jokes, maybe no more than the idle chatter of men with not enough to occupy themselves. She resolved to do nothing about it for the time being, but to warn Takeo when he returned. The time of the great heat began, and it was too sultry to ride outside. Since Keide could take no decisions till Takeo's return, and since she expected him every day, she spent most of her time kneeling at the lacquer writing table, copying the tribe records. The doors to the residence were all opened to catch the least breeze, and the sound of insects was deafening. Her preferred room looked out over the pools and a waterfall. Through the azalea bushes, she could see the silver-weathered tea house. Silver-weathered tea house. Every day she promised herself that she would make tea there for Takeo that night, and every day she was disappointed. Sometimes kingfishers came to the pools, and the flash of blue and orange would distract her momentarily. Once a heron alighted outside the veranda, and she thought it was a sign that he would be back that day, but he did not come. She let no one see what she was writing, for she quickly realized the importance of the records. She was amazed at what Shigeru had uncovered, and wondered if someone within the tribe had acted as his informant. She concealed the original records and the copies in a different place every night, and tried to commit as much as possible to memory. She became obsessed with the idea of the secret network, watched for signs of them everywhere, trusted no one, even though Takeo's first work at Maruyama had been to purge the castle household. The range of the tribe daunted her. She did not see how Takeo would ever escape them. Then the thought would come to her that they had already caught up with him, that he was lying dead somewhere, and she would never see him again. He was right, she thought. They must all be killed. They must be rooted out, for they seek to destroy him. And if they destroy him, they destroy me. The faces of Shizuka and Muto Kenji often rose before her mind's eye. She regretted the trust she had placed in Shizuka, and wondered how much of Keide's life her companion had revealed to others in the tribe. She had thought that both Shizuka and Kenji had been fond of her. Had all that affection been feigned? They had nearly died together in Inuyama Castle. Did that count for nothing? Give me a second, chat. Yep, cool. Did that count for nothing? She felt betrayed by Shizuka, but at the same time, she missed her badly and wished she had someone like her to confide in. Her monthly bleeding came, bringing her renewed disappointment and placing her in seclusion for a week. Not even Hiroshi visited her. When it was over, the copying was finished too, and she became even more restless. The festival of the dead came and went, leaving her filled with sorrow and regrets for the departed. The work on the residence that had gone on all summer was completed, and the rooms looked beautiful, but they felt empty and unlived in. Hiroshi asked one morning, "Why isn't your sister here with you?" And on a sudden impulse, she said, "Shall we ride to my house and fetch her?" There had been a week of leaden skies, as if a typhoon was threatening, but then the weather had suddenly cleared, and the heat had abated a little. The nights were cooler, and it seemed a perfect time to travel. Sugita tried to dissuade her, and even the elusive elders appeared one by one to argue against it, but she ignored them. Shirakawa was only 2 or 3 days away. If Takeo came home before she returned, he might ride and join her, and the journey would stop her from fretting all day long. "We can send for your sisters," Sugita said. "It is an excellent idea. I should have thought of it myself. I will go to escort them." "I need to see my household," she replied. Now that the idea was in her head, she could not relinquish it. "I have not spoken to my men since my marriage. I should have gone weeks ago. I must check in on my land and see that the harvest will be brought in." She did not tell Sugita, but she had another reason for the journey, one that had lain in her mind all summer. She would go to the sacred caves of the Shirakawa, drink the river's elemental water, and pray to the goddess for a child. "I will be away only a few days." "I'm afraid your husband will not approve." "He trusts my judgment in all things," she replied. "And, after all, didn't Lady Naomi often travel alone?" Because he was accustomed to receiving orders from a woman, she was able to overcome his misgivings. She chose Amano to go with her as well as a few of her own men, who had accompanied her since she had left in the spring for Teriyama. Hello, Amy. Amiipie, hello. Hello, Raiders. Amiipie is raiding me. Oh my goodness. Welcome in, friendos. My name is Salty. Pardon me. My name is Salty, and I'm reading a book. Amy, did you have a nice stream? I'm assuming you were doing ASMR, yes, maybe? Oh my goodness. Well, yes, welcome in, everyone. Yeah. Oh, very good. Awesome. I'll have to check out your VOD. Yeah, I have a blank. I'll just do the usual and say, I'm Salty. I am reading to improve my speech on Twitch, and people seem to like my voice, so I am here reading for you. I'm currently in the middle of reading a book called Brilliance of the Moon, which has a lovely purple shine on it. And it is book 3 of a series. Yeah. If you want to see the start of the series, I've started uploading VODs to YouTube. Oh, also, I'm having a bit of trouble uploading VODs to YouTube as well, because for some reason, because I'm recording the VODs on my local PC in one codec, and when YouTube converts it, it makes the colors all wash out, which is annoying. But, it's not awful, but it's just annoying. Anyway, so welcome in, everyone. It is super annoying, because I'm just like, I've got everything like perfectly, pretty much how I want it. I mean, this is kind of blown out here, but it doesn't matter. Then everything gets washed out when I upload it. So I'm just like, but yes, bit about I like reading. I like tea. I haven't played games or done art in a while. Something I've been intending to get back to. But I definitely try to read every Tuesday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So that is that is my dedicated reading days. So yeah, welcome in. What were we reading? Oh yes, the book that I'm reading, or the story that I'm reading, is told from two different points of view. One of the points of view is a young man named Takeo, who is a young lord now, attempting to get his inheritance. And the other point of view is his now wife, Lady Kade, who is attempting to... She has her inheritance, but she's attempting to basically get all of the elders to listen to her, because unfortunately they are having trouble listening to a woman, which I thought was odd, because the previous lord of this domain was a woman, so not sure what's up there. But anyway, she's about to go back to her old house where her sisters are, and yes, so she's just convinced her majordomo to arrange the travel. So yeah. Also, another thing is follows are anonymous, so you can follow if you like, and it won't show up a little. You get a little animation up the top there, but that's about it. Right, so right, I'll just start from the beginning of that paragraph again. That's all right. Because he was accustomed to receiving orders from a woman, she was able to overcome his misgivings. She chose Amano to go with her, as well as a few of her own men who had accompanied her since she had left in the spring for Terayama. After some consideration, she took none of her women with her, not even Minami. She wanted to go quickly, on horseback, without the formalities and dignity that she would have to put up with if she travelled openly. Minami pleaded and then sulked, but Kade was adamant. So she could have gone with Takeo then, maybe. She's a bit more, not rugged, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, she's a bit tougher than she looks, or appears. She rode Raku, refusing even to take a palanquin with her. Before she left, she had planned to hide the copies of the records below the floor of the tea room, but the hints of disloyalty still worried her, and, in the end, she could not bear to leave them where anyone might find them. She decided to take both sets with her, already thinking she might hide the originals somewhere in her house at Shirakawa. After much pleading, Hiroshi was allowed to accompany her, and she took him to one side and made him promise not to let the chests out of his sight on the journey. And, at the last moment, she took the sword Takeo had given her. Amano managed to persuade Hiroshi to leave his father's sword behind, but the boy brought a dagger and his bow, as well as a small fiery roan horse from his family's stables that played up all the first day, causing the men endless amusement. Twice it wheeled round and bolted, heading for home, until the boy brought it under control and caught up with them, blue-faced with rage, but otherwise undaunted. "He's a nice-looking creature, but green," Amano said. "And you make him tense. Don't grip so hard. Relax." He made Hiroshi ride alongside him. The horse settled down, and the next day gave no problems. Keide was happy to be on the road. As she had hoped, it kept her from brooding. The weather was fine, the country in the full flush of harvest, the men cheerful at the prospect of seeing their homes and families after months away. Hiroshi was a good companion, full of information about the land they passed through. "I wish my father had taught me as much as yours taught you," she said, impressed by his knowledge. "When I was your age, I was a hostage in Noguchi Castle. He made me learn all the time. He would not allow me to waste a moment." "Life is so short and fragile," Keide said. "Perhaps he knew he would not see you grow up." Hiroshi nodded and rode in silence for a while. He must miss his father, but he will not show it, she thought, and found herself envying the way he had been taught. "I will have my children brought up that way. Girls as well as boys will be taught everything and will learn to be strong." On the morning of the third day, they crossed the Shirakawa River and entered her family's domain. It was shallow and easily fordable, the swift white water swirling between rocks. There was no barrier at the border. They were beyond the jurisdiction of the great clans, and in the region of smaller landholders, where neighbours were either involved in petty standoffs or had formed amicable alliances among themselves. Nominally, these warrior families paid allegiance to Kumamoto or to Maruyama, but they did not move to the castle towns, preferring to live on and farm their own lands, on which they paid very little tax to anyone. "I've never crossed the Shirakawa before," Hiroshi said as the horses splashed through. "This is the farthest I've been from Maruyama." "So now it's my turn to instruct you," she said, taking pleasure in pointing out the landmarks of her country. "I will take you to the source of the river later, to the great caves, only you will have to wait outside." "Why?" he demanded. "It's a sacred place for women. No men are allowed to set foot in there." She was eager to get home now, and they did not linger on the way, but she was studying everything: the look of the land, the progress of the harvest, the condition of oxen and children. Compared to a year ago, when she had returned with Shizuka, things had improved, but there were still many signs of poverty and neglect. "I abandoned them," she thought guiltily. "I should have come home before." She should have appointed a manager. No, never mind. She thought of her tempestuous flight to Terayama in the spring. She seemed to have been another person, bewitched. Amano had sent 2 of the men ahead, and Shoji Kiyoshi, the domain's senior retainer, was waiting for her at the gate of her house. He greeted her with surprise and, she thought, coolness. The household women were lined up in the garden, but there was no sign of her sisters or Ayame. Raku whinnied, turning his head towards the stables and the water meadows where he had run in the winter. Amano came forward to help her dismount. Hiroshi slid from the roan's back, and it tried to kick the horse next to it. "Where are my sisters?" Keide demanded, brushing aside the women's murmured greetings. No one answered. A shrike was calling insistently from the camphor tree by the gate, grating on her nerves. "Lady Shirakawa," Shoji began. She spun to face him. "Where are they?" We were told you sent instructions for them to go to Lord Fujiwara. Uh-oh. I did no such thing. How long have they been there? 2 months at least. He glanced at the horsemen and the servants. We should speak in private. Yes, at once, she agreed. One of the women ran forward with a bowl of water. Welcome home, Lady Shirakawa. Kade washed her feet and stepped onto the veranda. Unease was beginning to creep through her. The house was eerily quiet. She wanted to hear Hannah and Ai's voices. She realized how much she had missed them. It was a little after noon. She gave instructions for the men to be fed, the horses watered, and both to be kept ready in case she needed them. She took Hiroshi to her own room and told him to stay there with the records while she spoke to Shoji. She was not hungry at all, but she arranged for the women to bring food to the boy. Then she went to her father's old room and sent for Shoji. The room looked as if someone had just walked out of it. There was a brush lying on the writing table. Hannah must have gone on with her studies even after Keide's departure. She picked up the brush and was staring at it dully when Shoji tapped on the door. Thank you for following. He entered and knelt before her, apologizing. We had no idea it was not your wish. It seemed so likely. Lord Fujiwara himself came and spoke to Ai. She thought she detected insincerity in his voice. Why did he invite them? What did he want with them? Her voice was trembling. You yourself often went there, Shoji replied. Everything has changed since then, she exclaimed. Lord Otori Takeo and I were married at Teriyama. We have established ourselves at Maruyama. You must have heard of this. I found it hard to believe, he replied, since everyone thought you were betrothed to Lord Fujiwara and were to marry him. There was no betrothal, she said in a fury. How dare you question my marriage? She saw the muscles round his jaw tense and realized he was as angry as she was. He leaned forward. What are we to think? He hissed. We hear of a marriage that is undertaken with no betrothal, no permission asked or given, none of your family present. I'm glad your father is already dead. You killed him by the shame you brought on him, but at least he is spared this fresh shame. ... He broke off. They stared at each other, both shocked by his outburst. I'll have to take his life, Kade thought in horror. He cannot speak to me like that and live. But I need him. Who else can look after things for me here? Then the fear came to her that he might try and take the domain from her, using his anger to mask ambition and greed. She wondered if he had taken control of the men she and Kondo had gathered together in the winter. If they would obey him now. She wished Kondo were there, then realized that she could trust the tribe man even less than her father's senior retainer. No one could help her. Struggling to hide her apprehension, she continued to stare at Shoji until he lowered his eyes. He regained control of himself, wiping the spittle from his mouth. Seems to me that he was protesting her marriage by sending her sisters off. That won't do. He regained control of himself, wiping the spittle from his mouth. Forgive me. I have known you since you were born. It is my duty to speak to you, even though it pains me. I will forgive you this time, she said. But it is you who shame my father, through disrespect to his heir. If you ever speak to me in that fashion again, I will order you to slit your belly. You are only a woman, he said, trying to placate her, but enraging her further. You have no one to guide you. Hey, Zelda. I have my husband, she said shortly. There is nothing you or Lord Fujiwara can do to alter that. Go to him now and say my sisters are to come home at once. They will return with me to Maruyama. He left immediately. Yeah, that's right. Make him undo his mistake. Shocked and restless, she could not sit quietly and wait for his return. She called to Hiroshi and showed him the house and garden, while she checked all the repairs that she had had done in the autumn. The crested ibis, in their summer plumage, were feeding on the banks of the rice fields, and the shrike continued to scold them as they trespassed into its territory. Then she told him to fetch the chests of records, and carrying each one, they made their way upstream along the Shirakawa, or White River, to where it emerged from under the mountain. She would not hide them where Shoji might find them. She would entrust them to no human. She had decided to give them to the goddess. The holy place calmed her, as always, but its ageless, sacred atmosphere awed her rather than lifted her spirits. Below the huge arch of the cave's entrance, the river flowed slowly and steadily in deep pools of green water, belying its name, and the twisted shapes of the calcified rocks gleamed like mother of pearl in the half-light. The old couple who maintained the shrine came out to greet her. Leaving Hiroshi in the company of the man, Keide went forward with his wife, each of them carrying one of the chests. Lamps and candles had been lit inside the cavern. Oh. Hello, bee. Good excuse for a sip of tea. How you doing, B? Do you like my additions to the stream? I've got the volume turned down because we're cozy, and Forrest is trying to nap. Yeah, welcome in, B. Yes, I got my little. These are hair ties or hairbands. And I got my little heart in the corner down there. Yeah. Okay, so Keide was visiting the holy shrine. You're in task? Big fan. Good. Yes, Keide is visiting the holy shrine, which is at the start of the Shirakawa River. I'm guessing it's the spring where the river comes from. Where are we? Oh, yes, right, the couple came out. Lamps and candles had been lit inside the cavern, and the damp rock glistened. The roar of the river drowned out all other noise. They stepped carefully from stone to stone, past the giant mushroom, past the frozen waterfall, past heaven's stairway, all shapes made by the limey water, until they came to the rock shaped like the goddess, from which drops fell like tears of mother's milk. Kader said, "I must ask the goddess to protect these treasures for me. Unless I myself come for them, they must stay here with her forever." The old woman nodded and bowed. Behind the rock, a cave had been hollowed out, well above the highest level of the river. They climbed up to it and placed the chests in it. Kader noticed that it contained many other objects that had been given to the goddess. She wondered about their history and what had happened to the women who had placed them here. There was a damp, ancient smell. Some of the objects were decaying. Some had already rotted. Would the records of the tribe rot away here, hidden under the mountain? The air was cold and clammy, making her shiver. When she put the chest down, her arms felt suddenly empty and light. She was seized by the knowledge that the goddess knew her need, that her empty arms, her empty womb would be filled. She knelt before the rock and scooped up the water from the pool that had gathered at its base. As she drank, she prayed almost wordlessly. The water was as soft as milk. The old woman, kneeling behind her, began to chant a prayer so ancient that Kader did not recognize the words, but its meaning washed over her and mingled with her own longing. Thank you for following, friendo. The rock shape had no eyes, no features, yet she felt the benign gaze of the goddess upon her. She remembered the vision she had had at Terayama and the words that had been spoken to her. Be patient, he will come for you. She heard the words clearly again, and for a moment they puzzled her. Then she understood them to mean, he would come back. Of course he will. I will be patient, she vowed again. As soon as my sisters are here, we will go to Mariama at once, and when Takea returns, I will conceive a child. I was right to come here. Thank you for following. She felt so strengthened by the visit to the caves that at the end of the afternoon she went to the family temple to pay her respects to her father's tomb. Honestly, I don't know why she is paying respects to her father's tomb after what he did, but okay. Hello. To Golden Low. Hello, Golden. Right. Hiroshi came with her, as did one of the women of the house, Ayako, who carried offerings of fruit and rice, and a bowl of smoking incense. His ashes lay buried among the graves of her ancestors, the Shirakawa lords. Beneath the huge cedars, it was gloomy and cool. The wind soughed in the branches, carrying the min-min of cicadas. Tell me about it. Over the years, earthquakes had shifted the columns and pillars, and the ground heaved upwards as if the dead were trying to escape. Her father's grave was still intact. Kaede took the offerings from Ayako and placed them in front of the stone. She clapped her hands and bowed her head. She dreaded hearing or seeing his spirit, yet she wanted to placate it. She could not think calmly about his death. He had wanted to die, but had been unable to find the courage to kill himself. Shizuka and Kondo had killed him. Did that constitute murder? She was aware, too, of the part she had played, the shame she had brought on him. Would his spirit now demand some payment? Okay, if you ever watched the VODs of her father when he was alive, like, seriously, he didn't deserve a grave. The guy didn't deserve venerating at all. I haven't uploaded that VOD yet. She took the bowl of smouldering incense from Ayako and let the smoke waft over the tomb and over her own face and hands to purify her. She put the bowl down and clapped again 3 times. The wind dropped. The crickets fell silent, and in that moment she felt the earth tremble slightly beneath her. The landscape quivered. The trees shook. An earthquake! Hiroshi exclaimed behind her as Ayako gave a cry of fear. It was only a small tremor, and no more followed, but Ayako was nervous and jittery on the way home. Your father's spirit spoke to you, she murmured to Kaede. What did he say? What did he say? He approves of everything I have done, she replied with a confidence she was far from feeling. In fact, the tremor had shocked her. She feared her father's angry, embittered ghost, and felt it attacked all she had experienced in the sacred caves at the goddess's feet. May heaven be praised, Ayako said, but her lips tightened, and she continued to give Kaede anxious glances all evening. By the way, Kaede asked her as they ate together, where is Tsunoda, Akita's nephew? This young man had come with his uncle the previous winter, and she had made him remain in her household as a hostage in Shoji's care. She was beginning to think she might have need of him now. He was allowed to return to Inuyama, Ayako said. Shoji. What? Shoji had relinquished her hostage? All right, B, have good work. Don't forget to hand out the crayons. Shoji had relinquished her hostage? She could not believe the extent of his treachery. Okay, yeah, that is treachery. He knew exactly what he was there for. What flavor crayons? Pink, probably. Green, pink and green. His father was said to be ill, Ayako explained. So her hostage was gone, diminishing her power further. It was already dusk before she heard Shoji's voice outside. Come on, Kaede, lay down the law here. Hiroshi had gone with Amano to his house to meet his family and sleep there, and Kaede had been waiting in her father's room, going through the records of the estate. Pardon me. She could see many signs of mismanagement, and when it was obvious Shoji had returned alone, her rage against her father's senior retainer grew even more fierce. When he came to her, Ayako followed him, bringing tea, but Keide was too impatient to drink it. "Where are my sisters?" she demanded. He drank the tea gratefully before replying. He looked hot and tired. "Lord Fujiwara is glad of your return," he said. "He sends you his greetings and asks that you will call on him tomorrow. He will send his palanquin and an escort." "I have no intention of calling on him," she retorted, trying not to lose her temper. "I expect my sisters to be returned to me tomorrow, and after that we will leave for Maruyama as soon as possible." "I'm afraid your sisters are not there," he said. Her heart plunged to her belly. "Where are they?" "Lord Fujiwara says Lady Shirakawa is not to be alarmed. They are perfectly safe, and he will tell her where they are when she visits him tomorrow." "You dare to bring me such a message?" Her voice sounded thin and unconvincing to her own ears. Shoji inclined his head. "It gives me no pleasure, but Lord Fujiwara is who he is. I cannot defy or disobey him, nor, I believe, can you." "They are hostages, then?" she said in a low voice. He did not answer directly, but merely said, "I'll give orders for your journey tomorrow. Shall I accompany you?" "No!" she cried. "And if I am to go, I will ride. I will not wait for his palanquin. Tell Amano I will ride my grey, and he is to come with me." For a moment, she thought he would argue with her, but then he bowed deeply and acquiesced. I'm surprised he still has his head, to be honest. I know she was trying not to kill people, but this guy is clearly a traitor. And that is what is done. I'm pretty sure in this world they didn't have prisons. After he had gone, her thoughts were in turmoil. If she could not trust Shoji, who of the domain's men could she trust? Were they trying to trap her? Surely even Fujiwara would not dare. She was married now. At one moment, she thought she should return immediately to Maruyama. The next, she realized I and Hana were in someone else's possession, and she understood what it meant to have hostages held against her. So must my mother and Lady Naomi have suffered, she thought. I must go to Fujiwara and bargain with him for them. He has helped me before. He will not turn completely against me now. I don't know about that girl. I don't know, girl. Next, she began to worry about what to do with Hiroshi. It had seemed like the safest of journeys, yet she could not help feeling that she had brought him into danger. Should he ride with her to Lord Fujiwara's, or should she send him home as quickly as possible? She rose early and sent for Amano. She dressed in the simple travelling clothes she had worn on the journey, even though she could hear Shizuka's voice in her head. You can't appear before Lord Fujiwara on horseback like a warrior. Her own better judgment told her to delay a few days, to send messages and gifts, and then to travel in his palanquin with his escort, dressed perfectly for him, presented like the flawless treasures he prized. Shizuka, even Manami, would have advised her so. But her impatience was too great. She knew she would never endure the waiting and the inactivity. She would meet Lord Fujiwara once more, would find out where her sisters were and what he wanted, and would then go immediately back to Maruyama, back to Takeo. When Amano came, she sent the women away so she could speak privately with him, and quickly explained the situation. I have to go to Lord Fujiwara's, but, to tell you the truth, I am anxious about his intentions. We may need to leave quickly and return to Maruyama at speed. Be ready for it, and make sure the men and horses are prepared. His eyes narrowed. There will be no fighting, surely? I don't know. I'm afraid they will try to detain me. Against your will? Impossible. It's unlikely, I know, but I am uneasy. Why were my sisters taken away if not to force me in some way? We should leave at once, he said, young enough not to be cowed by the nobleman's rank. Let your husband talk to Lord Fujiwara with the sword. I am afraid of what will be done to my sisters. I must at least find out where they are. Shoji says we cannot defy Fujiwara, and I suppose he is right. I will have to go and speak with him. But I will not go into the house. Do not let them take me inside. Amano bowed. Keide went on. Should Hiroshi be sent home? I wish I had not brought him. I have the burden of his safety on me now too. There is safety in numbers, Amano said. He should stay with us. And anyway, if there is to be trouble, we can ill spare the men to escort him back. I will die before any harm comes to him or you. She smiled, grateful for his loyalty. Then let us leave with no more delay. It's getting intense. The weather had changed again. The clarity and coolness of the last few days had given way to a renewed oppressiveness. It was humid and still, the sort of day that heralded the typhoons of late summer. The horses were sweating and restless, Hiroshi's roan more unsettled than ever. Keide wanted to talk to Hiroshi, to warn him of the possible dangers that lay ahead, to make him promise not to get involved in any fighting. But the horse was too fidgety, and Amano made the boy ride in front with him, lest the roan upset Raku as well. She could feel the sweat running down inside her clothes. She hoped she would not arrive red in the face and soaked. She was already half regretting the rashness of her decision. But, as always, riding made her feel more powerful. She had made the journey only in the palanquin before, never able to look out on the landscape from behind the silk curtains and oiled paper screens that had enclosed her. Now she was able to absorb the beauty of the scenery, the richness of farmland and forest, the grandeur of the distant mountains, range after range, each slightly paler than the one in front, fading until they merged into the sky. No wonder Lord Fujiwara did not want to leave this beautiful place. His image, seductive and intriguing, rose before her eyes. She remembered how he had always seemed to like and admire her. She could not believe he would harm her, but her senses were heightened with some apprehension. Is this how it feels to ride into battle? She wondered. Life never seeming more beautiful, nor more fleeting, to be grasped and flung away in one and the same breath. And flung away in one and the same breath. She put her hand on the sword in her belt, reassured by the feel of the hilt. They were only a few miles from the gates of Fujiwara's residence when they saw dust on the road ahead, and out of the haze trotted the palanquin bearers and horsemen sent by the nobleman to fetch her. Their leader spotted the silver river crest on Amano's surcoat and drew rein to greet him. His gaze swept over Keide, and then his neck muscles corded as his eyes snapped back to her in astonishment. "Lady Shirakawa!" he gasped, and shouted to the bearers, "Down, down!" They dropped the palanquin and knelt in the dust. The horsemen dismounted and stood with bowed heads. They appeared submissive, but she saw immediately that they outnumbered her men 2-1. "I am on my way to visit his lordship," she said. She recognized the retainer, but could not recall his name. He was the man who had always come to escort her to Lord Fujiwara's in the past. "I am Murita," he said. "Would Lady Shirakawa not prefer to be carried?" "I will ride," she said shortly. "We are so close now." His lips were compressed into a thin line. He disapproves, she thought, and glanced at Amano and Hiroshi, who were now alongside her. Amano's face gave nothing away, but there was a flush of blood beneath Hiroshi's skin. "Are they embarrassed for me? Am I shaming myself and them?" Keide straightened her back and urged Raku forward. Murita sent 2 of his men ahead, increasing her sense of unease about the reception that awaited them, but she could think of nothing to do but ride onward. The horses felt her anxiety. Raku sidestepped a little, ears pricked, eyes rolling, and Hiroshi's horse threw its head in the air and tried to buck. The boy's knuckles were white on the reins as he brought it under control. When they came to the residence, the gates were open and armed guards stood inside the courtyard. Amano dismounted and came to help Keide from Raku's back. "I will not get down until Lord Fujiwara comes," she said boldly. "I do not intend to stay." Murita hesitated, unwilling to take such a message. "Tell him I am here," she pressed. "Lady Shirakawa." He bowed his head and dismounted, but at that moment Lord Fujiwara's young companion, Mamoru, the actor, came from the house and knelt in front of her horse. "Welcome, lady," he said. "Please come inside." She was afraid that if she did, she would never come out. "Mamoru," she said curtly, "I will not go inside. I have come to find out where my sisters are." "Hello, Pixie. Welcome in." "You're in Makerspace? Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Hope everything goes well, Yuan." He stood then and came to the right side of her horse, stepping between her and Amano. He, who had rarely looked directly at her, now seemed to be trying to meet her gaze. "Lady Shirakawa," he began, and she heard something in his voice. "Remount," she said to Amano, and he obeyed her instantly. "Please," Mamoru said quietly. "It's best if you comply. I beg you. For your sake, for the sake of your men, the boy. If Lord Fujiwara will not come to speak to me, and will not tell me what I want to know, I have no further business here." She did not see who gave the order. She was aware only of some look that flashed between Mamoru and Morita. "Ride!" she cried to Amano, and tried to turn Raku's head, but Morita was holding the bridle. She leaned forward, drawing her sword, and urging the horse to rear. He shook his head free from the man's grip, and went up on his hind legs, striking out with his forefeet. She struck downwards at Morita, and saw the blade slice against his hand. He cried out in fury, pulling out his own sword. She thought he would kill her, but he grabbed at the bridle again, wrenching the horse's head down. She felt something plunge and flail behind her. It was Hiroshi's horse, panicking. Mamoru was plucking at her clothes, calling out to her, begging her to surrender. Beyond him she could see Amano. His sword was drawn, but before he could use it, an arrow struck him in the chest. She saw the look of shock come into his eyes. Then blood began to bubble with each breath, and he fell forward. "No!" she screamed. Morita, at the same moment, in frustrated rage, thrust his sword upwards into Raku's exposed chest. The horse screamed, too, in pain and fear, and his bright blood began to gush. As he faltered, legs swaying, head sinking, Morita caught Kaede and tried to drag her from his back. She struck out at him once more, but the horse was falling, taking her down, and her blow had no strength in it. Morita caught her wrist and effortlessly twisted the sword from her hand. Saying nothing, he half dragged, half carried her to the house. "Help me! Help me!" she called, twisting her head round, trying to look back at her men. But the swift, ferocious assault had left them all dead or dying. "Hiroshi!" she screamed, and heard hoofs pounding. The last thing she saw before Morita carried her inside was the Roan bolting, carrying the boy away against his will. It was the slightest grain of comfort. Morita searched her for other weapons, finding her knife. His hand was bleeding freely, and rage made him rough. Mamoru ran before them, opening doors, as he took her to the guest rooms. When he released her, she fell to the ground, sobbing with rage and grief. Thank you for the follow. "Raku, Raku," she wept, as grief-stricken as if the horse had been her child. Then she wept for Amano and the others whom she had led to their death. Mamoru knelt beside her, babbling. "I'm sorry, Lady Shirakawa. You must submit. No one is going to hurt you, believe me. We all love and honor you here. Please calm yourself." When she only wept more desperately, he said to the maids, "Send for Dr. Ishida." A few minutes later, she was aware of the physician's presence. He knelt beside her, and she raised her head, pushing aside her hair and gazing at him with stricken eyes. Lady Shirakawa, he began, but she interrupted him. My name is Otori. I am married. What is this outrage? You will not let them keep me here. You will tell them to let me go at once. I wish I could, he said in a low voice, but we all lead our lives here according to his lordship's will, not our own. What does he want from me? Why has he done this? He has abducted my sisters, murdered my men. The tears poured anew down her face. He did not need to kill my horse. She was racked by sobs. Ishida told the maids to fetch herbs from his house and bring hot water. Then he examined her gently, looking in her eyes and feeling her pulse. Forgive me, he said, but I must ask you if you are carrying a child. Why must you know that? It has nothing to do with you. His lordship's intention is to marry you. He considers that you were betrothed to him. He had already sought the Emperor's permission, as well as Lord Arise. We were never betrothed. Kaede sobbed. I am married to Otori Takeo. Ishida said gently, I can't discuss these things with you. You will see his lordship directly. But as your physician, I must know if you are pregnant. What if I am? Then we will get rid of it. When Kaede cried out in grief, he said, Lord Fujiwara is already making great concessions to you. He could have put you to death for your infidelity. He will forgive you and marry you, but he will not give his name to another man's child. Oh, this guy. She made no response other than renewed sobbing. The maid returned with the herbs and tea kettle, and Ishida brewed the infusion. Drink it, he told Kaede. It will calm you. Suppose I refuse, she said, sitting abruptly and snatching the bowl from him. She held it out at arm's length as though she would pour it onto the matting. Suppose I refuse all food and drink. Will he marry a corpse? Then you condemn your sisters to death. Or worse, he said. I'm sorry. I take no pleasure in the situation, nor am I proud of my part in it. All I can do is be utterly truthful with you. If you submit to his lordship's will, you will preserve your honour and their lives. She gazed at him for a long moment. Slowly she brought the cup to her lips. I am not pregnant, she said, and drained it. Ishida sat with her while her senses began to numb, and when she was calm, he told the maids to take her to the bathhouse and wash the blood from her. By the time she was bathed and dressed, the infusion had dulled her grief, and the brief, murderous episode seemed like something she had dreamed. In the afternoon, she even slept a little, hearing as if from another country the chanting of the priests, lifting the pollution of death from the house and restoring it to its peace and harmony. When she woke, she found herself in the familiar room. She forgot for a moment the past months and thought, I am at Fujiwara's. How long have I stayed here? I must call Shizuka and ask her. Then she remembered, but with no intensity, just a dull knowledge of what had been snatched so violently from her. It was twilight, the cool ending to a long, heavy day. She could hear the soft footsteps of the servants and their whispered voices. A maid came to the room with a tray of food. Kader picked at it listlessly, but the smell of food sickened her, and she soon called for it to be taken away. The maid returned with tea. Cheers. She was followed into the room by another woman, middle-aged, with small, sharp eyes and a severe look, obviously not a servant from her elegant clothes and refined manner. She bowed to the ground before Kader and said, "I am Ono Reiko, a cousin of Lord Fujiwara's late wife. I spent many years in her ladyship's household. His lordship sent for me to make the preparations for the wedding ceremony. Please accept me with kindness." She bowed her head formally to the floor again. Kader felt an instinctive dislike for the woman before her. Her appearance was not unpleasing. She could not imagine Fujiwara suffering any person around him who was not attractive. But she sensed both self-pride and mean-spiritedness in her character. "Do I have any choice?" she said coldly. Reiko gave a little trill of laughter as she sat up. "I am sure Lady Shirakawa will change her mind about me. I am only a very ordinary person, but there may be things I can advise you on." She began to pour the tea, saying, "Dr. Ishida wants you to have a cup of this now. And as it is the first night of the moon, Lord Fujiwara will come shortly to welcome you and view the new moon with you. Drink your tea, and I'll make sure your hair and dress are appropriate." I'm not a fan of all this. It's like trying to gaslight her almost. Anyway. Kader took a sip of tea, and then another, trying not to gulp it down, for she was terribly thirsty. She was calm and could barely feel anything, yet she was aware of the slow thudding of blood behind her temples. She dreaded meeting him, dreaded the power he had over her. It was the power that men held over women everywhere, in every aspect of their lives. She must have been mad to think she could fight it. She remembered all too clearly Lady Naomi's words. "I must appear a defenseless woman, otherwise these warriors will crush me." Now they were crushing her. Shizuka had warned her that her marriage would enrage the elders of her class, that it would never be permitted. But if she had listened and done what she was told, she would never have had the months with Takeo. The thought of him now was so freshly painful, even with the calming tea, that she laid it away in the secret recesses of her heart, as hidden as the records of the tribe in the sacred caves. She became aware that Reiko was studying her closely. She turned her face away and took another sip of tea. Come, Lady Shirakawa." Is it Reiko or Rieko? Rieko. I think it's Rieko. Rieko said briskly, "You must not brood. You are about to make a brilliant marriage." She came a little closer, shuffling forward on her knees. You are as beautiful as they say, apart from being too tall, but your skin has a tendency to sallowness, and that heavy look does not become you. Your beauty is your greatest asset. We must do all we can to preserve it. She took the cup and set it on the tray. Then she unloosened Kader's hair from the ties that held it back, and began to comb it out. How old are you? 16, Kader replied. I thought you were older, 20 at least. You must be the type that ages rapidly. We'll have to watch that. The comb raked across Kader's scalp, bringing tears of pain to her eyes. Rieko said, It must be very difficult to dress your hair. It is very soft. I usually tie it back, Kader said. It is the fashion in the capital to wear it piled on the head, Rieko said, tugging in a way that hurt intentionally. Thicker, coarser hair is more desirable. Whereas sympathy and understanding might have released Kader's grief, Rieko's unkindness steeled her, making her determined never to break down, never to show her feelings. I slept in ice, she thought. The goddess speaks to me. I will discover power of some sort here and use it until Takeo comes for me. He would come, she knew, or die in the attempt, and when she saw his lifeless corpse, she would be freed from her promise, and she would join him in the shadows of the afterworld. In the distance, dogs began barking suddenly and excitedly, and a moment later the house shook in a tremor, longer and a little more severe than the previous days. Kader felt what she always felt: shock, amazement that the earth could quiver like fresh bean curd, and a sort of elation that nothing was fixed or certain. Nothing lasted forever, not even Fujiwara and his house full of treasures. Rieko dropped the comb and struggled to her feet. The maids came running to the door. Come outside, quickly, Rieko cried, her voice alarmed. Why? Kader said. The quake will not be a big one. Rieko had already left the room. Kader could hear her ordering the maids to extinguish all the lamps, almost shrieking at them in her panic. Kader remained where she was, listening to the running feet, the raised voices, the barking dogs. After a few moments, she took up the comb and finished combing out her hair. Since her head ached, she left it loose. The robe they had dressed her in earlier seemed quite suitable for moon viewing. It was dove grey, embroidered with bush clover and pale lemon warblers. She wanted to look at the moon, to be bathed in its silvery light, and to be reminded of how it came and went in the heavens, disappeared for 3 days, and then returned. The maids had left the doors to the veranda open. Kader stepped out and knelt on the wooden floor, gazing towards the mountain, recalling how she had sat here with Fujiwara, wrapped in bearskins as the snow fell. Another slight tremor came, but she felt no fear. She saw the mountain tremble against the pale violet sky. The dark shapes of the garden trees were swaying, though there was no wind, and birds, disturbed, were calling as if it were dawn. Slowly their calls subsided and the dogs fell quiet. The thin golden sickle of the new moon hung next to the evening star just above the peaks. Keide closed her eyes. She smelled Fujiwara's fragrance before she heard him. Then she caught the tread of feet, the rustle of silk. She opened her eyes. He stood a few feet away from her, staring at her with the rapt, covetous look that she remembered so well. Lady Shirakawa. Lord Fujiwara. She returned his gaze for longer than she should, before slowly prostrating herself until her brow touched the floor. Fujiwara stepped onto the veranda, followed by Mamoru, who was carrying carpets and cushions. Not until the nobleman was seated did he give Keide permission to sit up. He reached out and touched the silk robe. It's very becoming. I thought it would be. You gave poor Marita quite a shock when you turned up on horseback. He nearly speared you by mistake. She thought she would faint from the fury that suddenly erupted through the herb-induced tranquility. That he should allude so lightly, jokingly, to the murders of her men, of Amano, who had known her since she was a child. How dare you do this to me? She said, and heard Mamoru's gasp of shock. I was married 3 months ago to Otori Takeo at Teriyama. My husband will punish you. She broke off, trying to regain control. I thought we would enjoy the moon before we talked, he replied, showing no response to the insulting way she had spoken. Where are your women? Why are you here alone? They ran when the earth shook, she replied shortly. Were you not afraid? I have nothing to be afraid of. You have already done the worst anyone can do to me. It seems we are to talk now, he said. Mamoru, bring wine, and then see that we are undisturbed. He looked meditatively at the moon without speaking for the next few minutes until Mamoru came back. When the young man had retired into the shadows again, Fujiwara indicated that Keide should pour the wine. He drank and said, Your marriage to the person who calls himself Otori Takeo has been set aside. It was undertaken without permission and has been ruled invalid. By whose authority? Lord Arai, your own senior retainer Shoji, and myself. The Otori have already disowned Takeo and declared his adoption illegal. The general opinion was that you should die for your disobedience to Arai and your infidelity to me, especially when your involvement in Aida's death became more widely known. We had an agreement that you would share my secrets with no one, she said. I thought we had an agreement that we should marry. That we would marry. She could make no response without insulting him further, and his words had in fact frightened her. She was all too aware that he could order her death on a moment's whim. No one would dare either to disobey such an order or to judge him afterwards. I knew she should have killed Shoji. Snake. he went on. You are aware of my high regard for you. I was able to effect something of a transaction with Arai. He agreed to spare you if I married you and kept you in seclusion. I will support his cause with the Emperor in due course. In return, I sent your sisters to him. You gave them to Arai. They are in Inuyama. I believe it's quite common to hand women over as hostages, he returned. Arai was incensed, by the way, when you dared to keep Akita's nephew as your hostage. It could have been a good move, but you threw all that away when you acted so rashly in the spring. All it achieved then was to offend Arai and his retainers further. Arai was your champion before. It was very foolhardy to treat him so badly. I know now that Shoji betrayed me, she said bitterly. Akita's nephew should never have been allowed to go home. You mustn't be so harsh on Shoji. Fujiwara's voice was bland and calm. He was doing what he thought right for you and your family, as we all are. I would like our marriage to take place as soon as possible. I think before the end of the week. Rieko will instruct you in your dress and behavior. She felt despair descend on her like the hunter's net over the wild duck. All men involved with me have died, except my lawful husband, Lord Otori Takeo. Aren't you afraid? Common talk is that it is men who desire you who die. I feel no more desire for you than I ever did. I do not want more children. Our marriage is to save your life. It will be in name only. He drank again and replaced the cup on the floor. It would be appropriate now to express your gratitude. Am I to be just one of your possessions? Lady Shirakawa, you are one of the few people I have shared my treasures with. The only woman. You know how I like to keep them away from the eyes of the world, wrapped up, hidden. Her heart quailed. She said nothing. And don't think Takeo will come and rescue you. Arai is determined to punish him. He is mounting a campaign against him now. The domains of Maruyama and Shirakawa will be taken in your name and given to me as your husband. He let his gaze cover her as if he would drink in every drop of her suffering. His desire for you has indeed been his downfall. Takeo will be dead before winter. Kaede had studied Fujiwara throughout the previous winter and knew all the changing expressions of his face. He liked to think he was impassive, his feelings always perfectly controlled, but she had grown adept at reading him. She heard the note of cruelty in his voice and caught the taste of pleasure on his tongue. She had heard it before when he spoke Takeo's name. She had thought him almost infatuated with Takeo when she had told him her secrets, when the snow lay thick on the ground and icicles as long as men's legs hung from the eaves. She had seen the gleam of desire in his eye, a slight slackening of his mouth, the way his tongue swelled around the name. Now she realized that the nobleman desired Takeo's death. It would give him pleasure and set him free from his obsession. And she had no doubt that her suffering would heighten his pleasure. At that moment, she resolved 2 things. She would show him nothing, and she would live. She would submit to his will so that he had no excuse to kill her before Takeo came for her. But she would never give him. But she would never. Pardon me. But she would never give either him or the devil woman he'd assigned to her the satisfaction of seeing how deeply she suffered. Got it out. She would never give either him or the devil woman he'd assigned to her the satisfaction of seeing how deeply she suffered. Okay. That sentence needed an extra comma. She allowed her eyes to fill with contempt as she looked at Fujiwara, and then she gazed past him at the moon. ... See how much more of the chapter we've got? Oh, it's okay. Keep going. Yes. The marriage took place a few days later. Keide drank the infusions that Ishida brewed, thankful for the numbness they brought her. She was resolved to have no feelings, to be like ice, remembering how long ago it was that Takeo's gaze had plunged her into the deep, cold sleep. She did not blame Ishida or Mamoru for the part they played in her imprisonment, for she knew they were bound by the same rigid code she was. But she swore Marita would pay for the murder of her men and her horse, and she came to loathe Rieko. She watched herself go through the rituals as if she were a doll or a puppet manipulated on a stage. Her family were represented by Shoji and 2 of her retainers. One she knew was a brother of Hiragawa, the man she had had executed by Kondo when he had refused to serve her the day of her father's death. I should have taken the lives of his whole family, she thought bitterly. I spared them only to make an enemy of them. There were other men there, of high rank, who she imagined must have been sent by Arai. They did not acknowledge her in any way, and she was not told their names. It made her realize all too clearly her new position. No longer mistress of a domain, her husband's ally and equal, but second wife to a nobleman, with no other life than what he saw fit to allow her. It was an elaborate ceremony, far more lavish than her wedding at Terayama. The prayers and chanting seemed to go on endlessly. The incense and bells made her head swim, and when she had to exchange the ritual 3 cups of wine 3 times with her new husband, she feared she would faint. She had eaten so little all week, she felt like a wraith. The day was unnaturally oppressive and still. Towards evening it began to rain heavily. She was taken from the shrine by palanquin, and Rieko and the other women undressed and bathed her. They rubbed creams into her skin and perfumed her hair. She was clad in night robes, more sumptuous than those she usually wore in the day. Then she was taken to new apartments in the deep interior of the residence, ones she had never seen before nor even known existed. they had been newly decorated. The beams and bosses glowed with gold leaf. The screens had been painted with birds and flowers, and the straw matting was fresh and sweet-smelling. The heavy rain made the rooms dim, but dozens of lamps burned in ornately carved metal stands. "All this is for you," Rieko said, a note of envy in her voice. Keidae did not reply. She wanted to say, "For what purpose, seeing that he will never lie with me?" But what business was this of Rieko's? Then the thought came to her. Maybe he intended to, just once, as he had with his first wife, to conceive his son. She began to tremble with revulsion and fear. "You don't need to be afraid," Rieko sneered. "It's not as if you don't know what to expect from a marriage. Now, if you were, as you should be, a virgin... ... Keidae could not believe that the woman dared to speak to her in such a manner, and in front of the servants. "Tell the maids to leave us," she said, and when they were alone, "If you insult me again, I shall see that you are dismissed." Rieko laughed her empty, trilling laugh. "I don't think my lady quite understands her situation. Lord Fujiwara will never dismiss me. If I were you, I would be more afraid of my own future. If you transgress in any way, if your behaviour is anything less than what is expected of Lord Fujiwara's wife, you may find yourself dismissed. You think you are brave, and that you would have the courage to take your own life. Let me tell you, it is harder than it seems. When it comes to the point, most women fail. We cling to life, weak things that we are." She picked up a lamp and raised it so the light fell on Keidae's face. "You have probably been told all your life that you are beautiful. But you are less beautiful now than you were a week ago. And in a year you will be less beautiful still. You have reached your peak. From now on, your beauty will fade." She held the lamp a little closer. Keidae could feel the scorch of the flame on her cheek. "I could scar you now," Rieko hissed. "You would be turned out of the house. Lord Fujiwara will only keep you while you please his eye. After that, the only place for women like you is the brothel." Keidae stared back without flinching. A flame flickered between them. Outside, the wind was rising, and a sudden gust shook the building. Far in the distance, as if from another country, a dog was howling. Rieko laughed again and placed the lamp on the floor. "So, it is not for your ladyship to speak of dismissing me. But I expect you are overwrought. I will forgive you. We must be good friends, as his lordship desires. He will come to you soon. I will be in the next room." Bitch. Keidae sat perfectly still, listening to the rising wind. She could not help thinking about her wedding night with Takeo. The feel of his skin against hers, his lips against the back of her neck, when he lifted away the weight of her hair. The pleasure he brought to her whole body before he entered her and they became one person. She tried to keep the memories at bay, but desire had taken hold of her, and it threatened to melt her icy numbness. She heard footsteps outside and held herself rigid. She had vowed not to give her feelings away, but she was sure her aching body would somehow betray her. God damn it. Leaving his servants outside, Fujiwara stepped into the room. Keide immediately bowed to the ground before him, not wanting him to see her face, but the act of submission itself made her tremble more. Mamoru came in behind the nobleman, carrying a small carved chest made of paulownia wood. He placed it on the ground, bowed deeply, and crawled backwards to the door of the adjoining room. "Sit up, my dear wife," Lord Fujiwara said, and as she did so, she saw Rieko pass a wine flask through the door to Mamoru. The woman bowed and crept out of sight, but not, Keide knew, out of earshot. Mamoru poured wine, and Fujiwara drank, gazing at Keide with rapt attention. The young man passed a cup to her, and she raised it to her lips. The taste was sweet and strong. She took only the smallest sip. It seemed that everything conspired to set her body on fire. "I don't believe she has ever looked so lovely," Lord Fujiwara remarked to Mamoru. "Note how suffering has brought out the perfect shape of her face. The eyes have a deeper expression, and the mouth is moulded like a woman's now. It will be a challenge to capture that." Mamoru bowed without replying. After a short silence, Fujiwara said, "Leave us alone." And when the young man had gone, he picked up the chest and rose to his feet. "Come," he said to Keide. She followed him like a sleepwalker. Some unseen servant slid open the screen at the rear of the room, and they stepped into another chamber. Here, beds had been spread out with silk-covered quilts and wooden pillow blocks. The room was scented with a heavy fragrance. The screens closed, and they were alone together. "There is no need to be unduly alarmed," Fujiwara said. "Or perhaps I have misjudged you, and it will be disappointment you feel?" She felt for the first time the sting of his contempt. He had read her clearly, had discerned her desire. A wave of heat swept over her. Yeah, she was thinking about Takeo, not him, though. "Sit down," he said. She sank to the ground, keeping her eyes lowered. He also sat, placing the chest between them. "We must pass a little time together. It's only a formality." Keide did not reply, not knowing what to say. "Speak to me," he ordered. "Tell me something interesting or amusing." It seemed a complete impossibility. Finally, she said, "May I ask Lord Fujiwara a question?" "You may." "What am I to do here? How am I to spend my days?" "Doing whatever it is that women do. Rieko will instruct you." "May I continue my studies?" "I think educating a girl was something of a mistake. It does not seem to have improved your character." "You may read a little. Kung Fu Su, I suggest." The wind gusted more strongly. That's got to be a joke, surely. The wind gusted more strongly. Here in the centre of the house, they were protected from its full force, but even so, the beams and pillars shook and the roof creaked. May I see my sisters? When Lord Arai has finished his campaign against the Otori, we may go to Inuyama in a year or so. May I write to them? Kaede said, feeling fury build within her that she should have to beg for such favours. If you show Honorieko your letters. The lamp flames flickered in the draught, and the wind moaned outside in an almost human voice. Kaede thought suddenly of the maids she'd slept alongside at Noguchi Castle. On wild, stormy nights, when the wind kept everyone awake, they would scare each other, more with ghost stories. Now she felt she could hear the same ghostly voices she'd imagined then in the many-tongued speech of the wind. The maids' stories were all of girls like themselves who'd been killed unjustly or had died for love, who had been abandoned by their lovers, betrayed by their husbands, murdered by their overlords. Their angry, jealous ghosts cried out for justice from the world of the shades. She shivered a little. You are cold. No, I was thinking of ghosts. Maybe one touched me. The wind is strengthening. Is it a typhoon? I believe so, he replied. Takeo, where are you? She thought. Are you out somewhere in this weather? Are you thinking of me at this moment? Is it your ghost that hangs behind me, making me shiver? Fujiwara was watching her. One of the many things I admire about you is that you show no fear. Hello, Nicholas. Yes, I'm reading a book. It is Brilliance of the Moon. There. Welcome in. Pull up a chair. Pull up a couch. Pull up a bed. One of the many things I admire about you is that you show no fear. Not in the earthquake, not in a typhoon. Most women are thrown into panic by these things. Of course, that does seem more feminine, and your boldness has taken you too far. You must be protected from it. What a bastard. Bloop. C'est la vie. He must never know how afraid I am of hearing of their deaths, she thought.
Take a fucking sip, babes.
Takeo most, but also I and Hannah. I must never show it. Cheers. Fujiwara leaned forward slightly, and with one pale, long-fingered hand indicated she should look at the chest. I have brought a wedding gift for you, he said, opening the lid and lifting out an object wrapped in silk. I don't expect you are familiar with these curiosities. Some are of great antiquity. I have been collecting them for years. He placed it on the floor in front of her. You may look at it when I have left you. Kaede eyed the package warily. His tone warned her that he was enjoying some kind of cruel teasing at her expense. She had no idea what it might be. A small statue, perhaps, or a flask of perfume? She raised her eyes to his face and saw the slight smile play on his lips. She had no weapons and no defences against him except her beauty and her courage. She gazed past him, serene and immobile. He stood and wished her good night. She bowed to the floor as he left. The wind shook the roof and the rain lashed against it. She could not hear his footsteps as he walked away. It was as if he disappeared into the storm. She was alone, though she knew Rieko and the maids were waiting in the adjoining rooms. She let her gaze fall on the deep purple silk, and after a few moments picked it up and unwrapped the object inside. It was an erect male member, carved from some reddish, silky wood, cherry perhaps, and perfect in every detail. She was both repelled and fascinated by it, as no doubt Fujiwara had known she would be. He would never touch her body. He would never sleep with her. But he had read her awakened desire, and with this perverse gift, he was both despising and tormenting her. Tears sprang into her eyes then. She rewrapped the carving and placed it back in the box. Then she lay down on the mattress in her marriage chamber and wept silently for the man she loved and desired. End of chapter 6. Yay! Oh god, that was an awful bloody chapter. I just like how Kade is always a bit of a punching bag, but I mean, from the author's point of view, she's a point of view character, so she's like a vehicle for all these different situations. But does it have to be Kade all the time? You know what I mean? Anyway. Once again, I can't remember how these books end, so it will be a surprise for me as much as everyone. I'm sure Takeo will find out and have something to say though. Chapter 7, we go back to Takeo's point of view, and it starts off from the end of chapter 5, when he came back from the pirates. And I will be reading that tomorrow at 9 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is, as usual, Tuesday and Wednesday. It's when I read book, because I like book. I need to get myself an I like book kind of thing. Damn it, Falco's got that one. Falco already has that emote. Okay. So, I hope everyone's been enjoying the story. I'm glad that Kade wasn't assaulted again, but she was definitely assaulted in a different manner and basically imprisoned, because that's what they're doing. The noblemen are just basically running roughshod over and gaslighting her, and yeah, not a fun time for Kade. So we will see what happens. I'm guessing Takeo will find out next chapter tomorrow when I read it. I'm just looking at Twitch to see who is on. Let's have a look. We got Jigo. We got Miss Chloe. Miss Chloe's on. Miss Chloe might be a good idea. I like Miss Chloe. Miss Chloe's nice. soon as the ads finish. Anyway, I don't think I've got anything else to report or say. Oh, who should I shout out randomly? Back. Okay. Who should I shout out? I'll shout out another ASMR person who that's now I've got choices. Let's have a think. I might shout out, another ASMR person. I think we're going to raid Miss Chloe, but I'll shout out another Australian ASMR streamer who does ASMR in, I think, my afternoons. That's like 4 hours earlier than this stream. Have I spelled her name right? Shout out Pixel Kohai or PK.
Glory to you and your house.
Glory to you, Pixel. Yes, Pixel is an Australian ASMR streamer who does Australian ASMR. I like shouting at random people who I find on Twitch. Okay, we're going to go raid Miss Chloe. How cute is it? Yeah, Pixel Kohai is, she's into like, soft and gentle ASMR. So, yeah, if you're having a rough day, she has a good stream. And she has VODs too, I think. Also, hello Pixie. Pixie is another streamer. Might as well, while we're here, give a shout out to Pixie Bazaar.
And your house.
Pixie reads. So if you're into story time on Sundays, Pixie reads. Pixie is one of the few other readers that I found on Twitch. Well worth checking out her stream. You've started on the Storytime Corner? Pixie's developing a Storytime Corner. Putting a bunch of comfy stuff in a corner and going to read from a cushion in the corner, like a bunch of floofy stuff. I was thinking about doing it like in bed, but setting up the camera and like controlling the stream from bed, a little bit difficult. Because I stream from my PC. So, yeah, I'd have to, I don't know how that would work. I'd need a laptop to control it all, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to grade Miss Chloe ASMR because, why not? Alright, I'll just turn down the res. That's alright, there we go. /raid, Miss Chloe ASMR. Okay, it's working good. Please join me for the raid. Miss Chloe is an absolute delight. She is an English streamer. She looks like an elf. Don't tell her I said that. Wireless keyboard? Okay, that's just making too much sense, Pixie. Gotta stop. That's too much. Stop that. Stop right there. It's making too much sense. Okay, everyone. I will see you tomorrow when I continue the story. Oop, that's too bad. There we go. Join me tomorrow when I continue the story. And if you want to start from the beginning, I've got VODs on YouTube. At Salty Chimkin. I think it's just that. Yeah, there we go. Alrighty. I'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Bye for now. Bye.